There's one sentence that instantly made me more focused and disciplined. Not a book, not a course, just one line. And the first time I heard it, it felt like a slap in the face because it exposed exactly why I was stuck. And this one sentence shattered the excuses I had been hiding behind for years. By the end of this video, y'all know the sentence and how to use it so you never waste another day again. But before I reveal it, you need to see why focus keeps slipping through your hands in the first place. The problem with your focus, you lose more focus than you realize. Not in giant, obvious ways, but in small, invisible leaks that eat away at your day. Think about today, be honest. Where did your time actually go? You probably wasted an hour without even noticing. Scrolling through feeds, clicking into notifications, checking messages you didn't need to check, switching between tasks because your brain was restless. And here's what makes it dangerous. None of it feels like failure. It feels like progress. You tell yourself you're busy. You tell yourself you're working. You tell yourself that answering emails, sitting in meetings, or clearing tasks means you're moving forward. But deep down, when you finally collapse into bed, you know the truth. You were spinning. You were reacting. You were drowning in the shallow. And that's the cruelest trap of all. It doesn't feel like failure. It feels like motion. And motion tricks you into believing you are on the right path until months pass, and you realize you haven't gone anywhere. You felt that sting before, haven't you? The guilt of ending a long day completely drained, but unable to point to anything meaningful you actually built. It's that quiet voice in your head whispering, I worked all day, but did I really do anything? And here's the part no one tells you. Focus isn't stolen from you halfway through the day. It's not lost because your job is demanding or because you had too much on your plate. No. You lose your focus in the first 5 minutes before you even start. That moment when you tell yourself, let me just check this first. That moment when you say, it'll get started after I clear a few small things. That's where discipline dies. That's where your day gets hijacked. It's not laziness that keeps you stuck. It's leakage. Little leaks of attention, little cracks in discipline, little compromises you make with yourself until you've given your best energy to things that don't matter. And this is why you still feel stuck even when you're working harder than ever. It's not that you don't try. It's not that you don't care. It's that you've been bleeding away your focus without realizing it. I lived like this for years, convinced that exhaustion meant progress, convinced that busyness meant discipline. And the more I worked, the further I drifted from the things that actually mattered. That's why the sentence I'm about to give you hit me so hard. Because in just one line, it exposed the trap I couldn't see. One line that made me realize why all my effort, all my late nights, all my so-called discipline was never enough. And once you hear it, you'll see it too. Because here's the truth, discipline doesn't fail because you're lazy. It fails for a much deeper reason. And unless you understand it, no system in the world will ever stick. Why discipline keeps failing you. Most people think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about waking up earlier, grinding harder, or pushing yourself until you break. And when they fail, they blame themselves. They think, I'm just not strong enough, I don't have what it takes. But that's not the truth. The truth is, willpower alone has never been enough. Think about the last time you swore you'd change. Maybe it was waking up at 5 a.m. to work out. Maybe it was cutting back on scrolling, eating clean, studying, or finally finishing that project you've been avoiding. For a few days, you felt unstoppable. You woke up with fire in your chest. You swore this time would be different, and then slowly, you slipped. One missed day turned into two. Excuses crept back in. Before you knew it, you were back at zero. You've lived this cycle again and again. That's why every time you try again, it feels heavier. Not because the task is harder, but because deep down you don't fully believe yourself anymore. You've broken your own promises too many times. And that's the real wound most people carry, not the failure itself, but the loss of self-trust. You see, discipline doesn't collapse in a dramatic explosion. It dies quietly in tiny compromises. The night you told yourself, it'll start tomorrow. The morning you said, it'll just skip this once. Each time you make those little trades, you weaken the bridge between who you are and who you said you would become. That's why it hurts so much when you try again, because you're walking on a bridge you've already cracked with your own hands. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't fail because you're lazy. You fail because your system is weak. Willpower runs out, motivation fades, routines get broken, life gets in the way, and every time it does, you slide back into the same cycle, pushing hard, slipping, crashing, starting over and over again, until you're convinced you're not capable of discipline at all. But you are capable. You've just been aiming at the wrong target. Discipline isn't about pushing harder. It's about keeping your word to yourself, no matter how small the promise. Because when you say y'all do something, and you actually do it even when you don't feel like it, that's when discipline sticks. That's when you start rebuilding trust in yourself. And that's why this one sentence matters so much. Because it gave me a rule I couldn't wiggle out of. It forced me to face myself without excuses, without loopholes, without escape. And once I started living by it, everything changed. The one sentence there was a moment when everything finally broke open for me. I was sitting there late at night, exhausted, surrounded by
unfinished tasks and half-built plans, staring at the mess of another day that looked just like the day before.
I had been trying everything. Morning routines, productivity hacks, new apps, motivational videos, you name it, I tried it. And every time, the same cycle played out. I would start strong, full of energy, and then little by little I would slip. I'd miss one day, then another. I'd promised myself I would catch up, and I never did. And with every slip, my belief in myself weakened. I wasn't just losing focus, I was losing trust in myself. And that night, sitting there in silence, it hit me. I didn't need another hack. I didn't need another system. I didn't need to drown myself in more tricks or advice. I needed something so brutally simple that I couldn't hide from it. I needed something sharp enough to cut through every excuse I had built. Because I realized that was the problem, my excuses. They always found a way in. They dressed themselves up as logic, as practicality, as rest or balance. And I believed them. I always gave in. What I needed was a weapon strong enough to silence them. And that's when I found it. Not in a book, not in a podcast, not in some guru speech, just one line. It didn't look powerful when I first read it. It didn't even sound like much, but it carried a weight that stopped me cold. And the more I stared at it, the more it drilled itself into me like truth I'd been running from all along. The sentence was this: do the thing you said you would do no matter how you feel. That's it. 11 words. Simple, direct, impossible to argue with. And yet that one sentence hit me harder than anything I had ever read, because it exposed the core of every failure ID ever had. Think about it. You've skipped the gym before, haven't you? Not because you forgot, but because you didn't feel like going. You've avoided that project. Not because you lacked time, but because you didn't feel motivated to start. You've broken promises to yourself, not because they weren't important, but because in the moment, they didn't feel urgent. Your whole life has been dictated by feelings, by moods, by that invisible shift between wanting to do something and not wanting to anymore. And this sentence destroys that illusion. It tells you something most people never want to hear. Your feelings are irrelevant. They don't decide your future. They don't control your actions. They don't get to be in charge unless you let them. All that matters is this: did you do the thing you said you would do? Word by word, this line dismantles every excuse you've ever made. Do the thing. Clear, direct, action-focused. No vague goals, no waiting, no pretending. You said you would do, your word, your promise, the agreement you made with yourself, the very foundation of discipline. And then the knife at the end, no matter how you feel. That's the part that changes everything. That's the part that cuts through every story you've ever told yourself about why you can't. The first time I applied it, something strange happened. I stopped negotiating with myself. I stopped arguing in the morning about whether or not to get up. I stopped bargaining at night about whether or not to finish the task. There was nothing left to debate. The rule was clear. I said I would do it, so I did it. And every time I followed through, no matter how small the action was, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: trust. I was rebuilding trust with myself. And it wasn't dramatic at first. It wasn't a lightning bolt or a sudden transformation. It was quiet. It was steady. It was me, finally keeping my word. Day after day, task after task, I started living by that sentence. And with every step, I felt stronger. I felt clearer. I felt in control again. One sentence. That's all it took. Not a complicated system, not a 1,000-page book, just a line I couldn't escape from, a line that forced me to become the person I'd been pretending to be. And that's when everything started to change. Because once I started living by that sentence, my entire life began to shift in ways I couldn't ignore. How it changed your life when you start living by this one sentence: everything changes. At first, you don't even realize it. It doesn't feel like a big breakthrough. It feels small, subtle, almost too simple to matter. But then the days begin to stack. Think back to how things used to be. You'd wake up already behind. The alarm would go off. You'd hit snooze, and you'd tell yourself, it'll start tomorrow. You'd make big plans in your head, but none of them would survive contact with reality. By the afternoon, you'd be reacting to everything: emails, notifications, people pulling you in every direction, and by the evening, you'd feel drained. Busy all day, but nothing meaningful to show for it. You'd tell yourself, tomorrow I'll do better. But tomorrow always looked exactly the same. That was the old you, the version of you that kept breaking promises to yourself, the version of you that felt guilty at night, wondering why focus seemed impossible. But then you applied the sentence, do the thing you said you would do no matter how you feel. Suddenly, mornings looked different. Instead of debating whether or not you felt like it, you simply got up and did the thing. No arguments, no bargaining, no endless delay. You said you'd do it, so you did. That was the new rule. That was the new you. And it spread faster than you expected. At first, maybe it was just one habit, going for that run even when you didn't feel like it, sitting down to write even when your mind screamed for distraction, making that call you'd been avoiding even though you wanted to push it off another day. Each time the sentence carried you through, each time you built a little more strength. And here's what surprised you the most. It wasn't just about productivity. It wasn't just about checking tasks off a list. It was about trust. For the first time in years, you trusted yourself again. When you said you would do something, you actually did it. That simple act rebuilt your confidence from the ground up. You felt it in your work. Instead of being scattered, you were sharper. Instead of reacting all day, you were creating. You were moving things forward that actually mattered. You felt it in your health. You didn't need motivation to exercise, to eat clean, to sleep on time. You had a sentence. And that sentence was stronger than motivation. You felt it in your relationships. Because when you become someone who keeps their word to themselves, you naturally become someone who keeps their word to others. People trust you more. They respect you more. Because you've stopped negotiating with your own excuses, and with every area of your life improving, one thing became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a sentence anymore. It was a shift in identity. The line between who you were and who you are now grew wider with every promise you kept. And that's when you realized if it worked for you, it could work for anyone. Real proof beyond you might think this sentence only worked because of your unique situation, that maybe you just happened to be in the right place at the right time, that maybe it clicked for you in a way it wouldn't for anyone else. But the truth is, this principle isn't new. It's been hiding in plain sight, lived out by some of the most disciplined and successful people on the planet. The difference is, they might not say the sentence out loud, but they live by it every single day. Look at world-class athletes. Do you think they wake up every morning burning with motivation? Do you think the champion sprinter always feels excited to step onto the track in the rain, in the cold, when their legs ache from yesterday's session? Of course not. They feel the same resistance you do. The same voice whispers in their head, stay in bed, take a day off, you've done enough. But here's the difference. They don't negotiate with that voice. They don't let how they feel decide what gets done. They follow the sentence. They do the thing they said they would do, no matter how they feel. And that's why their names are etched into record books, while others fade into memory. Or look at great entrepreneurs, the ones who build companies that change the world. Do you believe they only worked when inspiration struck? That they only showed up when everything felt exciting? No. They pushed through the days when it felt hopeless. They pushed through the weeks when every door slammed shut in their face. They kept showing up when everything inside them screamed to quit. Because they were anchored by the same truth. If they said they would do it, they did it, no matter how they felt. That's how empires get built, not through bursts of passion, but through relentless consistency. And it's not just athletes and entrepreneurs. Think about writers. Do you know how many books would never exist if authors only wrote when they felt like it? The blank page terrifies everyone. Inspiration is unreliable, but the ones who sit down anyway, the ones who write even when the words feel heavy, are the ones who finish. They are the ones who give the world stories that outlive them, because they obey the sentence. They do the thing they said they would do, no matter how they feel. It's the same for musicians, for scientists, for soldiers, for anyone who's ever accomplished something worth remembering. Greatness doesn't come from waiting until you're ready. Greatness doesn't come from chasing motivation. Greatness comes from this sentence, lived out in silence, day after day, until results become inevitable. And here's the irony. You've admired these people your whole life. You've read about them, studied them, maybe even envied them, and deep down you told yourself a story. They're built differently. They have something I don't. They're special. But now you see the truth. They're not superhuman. They're not magical. They're not born with more willpower than you. They simply live by a line you've only just discovered. That means you've been wrong about yourself all along. You've been carrying the same potential, the same fire, the same ability to focus and stay disciplined. You just didn't have the sentence to unlock it. And once you start living by it, You're no longer on the outside looking in. You're no longer the person who watches greatness from a distance, wondering why it never belongs to you. You become the person who has it. You move from envy to embodiment. And once you realize this, the excuses crumble. Because if the same law that drives Olympic athletes, world-changing entrepreneurs, and legendary creators is now in your hands, what excuse do you have left? None. The only question is whether you'll use it. But here's the part that matters most. Hearing about this sentence is one thing. Hearing stories about other people is inspiring, yes, but inspiration fades. You've felt that before. The video ends, the feeling drains, and you're back where you started. The real breakthrough happens when you stop admiring the principle from a distance and start applying it to your own life starting today. Because the sentence means nothing if you don't live it. And that's exactly what you need to do next. How you can apply it starting now, here's where everything becomes real. Because hearing this sentence is not enough. You've been inspired before. You've read quotes, watched videos, felt the fire in your chest, and then, by tomorrow, it was gone. You slipped back into old patterns. And that's why this part matters. You need to know how to apply it. Not someday, not when life calms down, but starting today. The first step is simple. Write the sentence down. Not on your phone, not buried in an app. Write it where you can see it. On a sticky note by your desk, on your bathroom mirror, on the first page of your notebook. Let it stare back at you every morning. Do the thing you said you would do no matter how you feel. Don't just think about it. Make it visible. Make it unavoidable. The second step, choose one thing, not 10, not everything at once. Just one area where you've been breaking promises to yourself. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your work. Maybe it's that project you've been putting off for years. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to fix your entire life in one sweep. Pick one, circle it, commit to it. Now here's the third step, reduce it to the smallest daily action. If it's fitness, maybe it's just putting on your shoes and running for 10 minutes. If it's writing, maybe it's one page. If it's building a skill, maybe it's 1 hour of practice. Start small, but make it non-negotiable. Because here's the truth, it's not about the size of the action, it's about the fact that you did it when you said you would. That's what rewires your brain. That's what rebuilds trust. The fourth step, protect it. This is where most people fail. They say they'll do something, but they leave it unguarded. They let distractions steal it before it even begins. Don't make that mistake. Block the time. Put your phone in another room. Tell the people around you that this moment is not to be disturbed. Treat it like it's sacred because it is. And then comes the final step. Repeat daily, without exception. The sentence only works if it becomes your law. Every day you'll feel resistance. You'll hear the excuses in your head. You'll feel tired, unmotivated, maybe even hopeless. That's when the line saves. Because feelings no longer get a vote. You said you would do it, so you do it. And here's what will happen. At first, it will feel mechanical. You'll be pushing through pure resistance. But after a few days, something shifts. The act of following through starts to feel lighter. The action becomes habit, and then the habit becomes identity. That's the transformation you're chasing, not just doing disciplined things, but becoming a disciplined person. Now here's the tension you need to feel. If you don't apply this today, you won't apply it tomorrow either. Tomorrow never comes. You've lived that cycle long enough. You know it's true. The only way this works is if you start now, not later, not when you're ready, now. And when you do, when you start small, stay consistent, and protect the sentence with everything you've got, the momentum will be undeniable. You'll see it. You'll feel it. You'll trust yourself again. And once that happens, you'll understand why this sentence isn't just a motivational quote, it's a new way of life. But even when you apply it, there's a hidden danger most people never see, and it can kill your discipline before it even begins. You need to know what it is, because if you don't, the sentence will slip through your fingers, like every other promise you've ever made. Protecting the sentence from sabotage. Even when you start applying the sentence, you'll notice something strange. The world will immediately start trying to steal it from you. The moment you decide to change, resistance multiplies. Suddenly your phone blows up with notifications. People around you demand your attention. Your own brain starts whispering, skip it just once. You'll catch up tomorrow, and if you're not ready for this, you'll fall right back into the same trap. Because here's the truth, discipline doesn't usually collapse in the middle of your effort. It collapses in the 5 minutes before you begin. You lose your hour before you ever sit down. You lose your focus before you ever open the notebook. You lose your discipline before your shoes even hit the floor. That's why most people can't hold on to the sentence. They think the problem is weakness, but the real problem is leakage, small cracks where attention drains away until nothing is left for the thing that matters most. So how do you stop this? You build a wall around your discipline. You protect it like your life depends on it because it does. And here's how. First, use a trigger. Same time, same place, same action, every day. If it's writing, maybe it's the same chair, the same notebook, the same pen. If it's training, maybe it's the same shoes, the same playlist, the same hour. That consistency tells your brain, this is where we don't argue. This is where we just do. Think of it like a launch sequence once it starts. There's no going back. Second, strip away the chaos from your environment. If your desk is cluttered, your mind will be cluttered. If your phone is nearby, your focus will scatter. Set the stage so your environment begs you to stay locked in. One object in front of you, the one thing that matters. Nothing else. Because your brain takes cues from what it sees. Third, set boundaries that others can't cross. Tell the people in your life this hour is non-negotiable. Make it clear that during this time, you are unavailable. At first, they may push back, they may laugh, they may test you, but when you show them you take it seriously, they'll start respecting it. Because when you respect your own hour, others learn to respect it too. And finally, remind yourself of this. Feelings are the enemy at the gate. Every time you're about to begin, your emotions will attack. You'll feel tired, you'll feel unmotivated, you'll feel the pull of distraction. But the sentence has already prepared you for this. Do the thing you said you would do no matter how you feel. Your feelings can scream, but they don't get a vote. When you start guarding your discipline this way, something powerful happens. You stop losing hours to noise. You stop letting other people dictate your priorities. You stop being a victim of your own excuses. You become untouchable because nothing outside you, not people, not distractions, not emotions, can sabotage the one rule you live by, and when you hold on to it long enough, the sentence stops being a tool you use. It becomes your identity. It's no longer something you apply. It's who you are. The identity shift. At first, this sentence feels like a rule you're forcing onto yourself. You write it down, you remind yourself, you grit your teeth and follow through. It feels like effort. It feels like you are dragging yourself uphill. But then something begins to shift, quietly, slowly, almost without you noticing. You stop asking, should I do this? And start asking, what's next? You stop battling your feelings because they no longer decide anything. You stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to become disciplined, and you start seeing yourself as someone who already is. That's the power of identity. When you repeat an action long enough, it stops being something you do, it becomes who you are. Every time you honor the sentence, you cast a vote for your future self. Every time you do the thing you said you would do, no matter how you feel, you're carving discipline into your identity. Until one day, you wake up and realize you no longer need the reminder. You don't need the sticky notes. You don't need the pep talks. You just live it. Think about that for a moment. Imagine being the kind of person who doesn't need motivation to follow through. Imagine being the kind of person who doesn't negotiate with excuses anymore. Imagine looking at yourself in the mirror and knowing, without doubt, that when you say you'll do something, you will. That's freedom, that's power, that's who you become when this sentence takes root. And once it does, everything changes. Your work sharpens, your health improves, your relationships strengthen, your confidence rises. Not because you added more hours, not because you discovered some secret hack, but because you finally became someone who keeps their own word. This is the reward of living by one line, one sentence. Do the thing you said you would do no matter how you feel. It's not just a tool, it's not just advice, it's a new identity. And once you wear it, you can't take it off. So remember this. One sentence can rebuild your focus, your discipline, and your future if you live by it like your life depends on it. Because it does.